It's one of Polk County's most prominent landmarks, the Sugarloaf. We're up here on off of 77 going toward Chilhowee, McCamey Lake, where you get a good view, but there's a good view of it in lots of places, even from Buck Bald, way off from here. You ever think about how it got its name? Well, the year was 1852, mid-October, one of the prettiest times here in East Tennessee, when Rosine Parmenter decided to, they left Brooklyn, New York on a ship, and they took shipping to Savannah Harbor in Georgia, and from Savannah they took a train through Atlanta and eventually to Cleveland, Tennessee. And in Cleveland, after spending the night in the hotel there, they took a wagon and they came up the Ocoee River and forded just about to where the intersection of 30 and 64 is and went up Silco Creek. She was wanting to see her lands that she had purchased up in the Silco and Dutch settlement area. And she spent about a week there, and each day she kept a diary. And thanks to the Cleveland Banner for later publishing that diary, there's lots of copies around today. It's really interesting read about her spending her time here in the East Tennessee Dutch settlement area specifically. And as she was leaving, she asked somebody what the name of this knob was over here. We call them knobs in this part of the country because they're smaller than the larger mountains like Big Frog. Oftentimes we just don't even have names for the little knobs. And she asked somebody that lived here for years what the name of this uniquely shaped one was, and they said they didn't know. It didn't have a name, they reckoned. And she said, it looks like a sugarloaf. Well, I had to look that up myself because back in 1852, you didn't go to the grocery store and buy 5 pounds of granulated sugar. It came in a kind of a cone-shaped thing. And if you applied sugar to something, you'd take that cone and your knife and just scrape it off on there. So think sort of like Hershey's Kiss sort of shape. But it became the Sugarloaf was known to people, and probably Rosine Parmenter in 1852 is the one we can actually credit to naming it that. The Bible doesn't have a lot to say about sugar. They use some sweetener. Solomon was big on honey. And in fact, the wisest man in the world, he says this in Proverbs, much honey doth make one sick. Well, that was wise, isn't it? And it was Samson who was on his way to a date one time, and he found a lion's carcass full of honey, and he took some in both hands, and he took those hands full of honey and took some to his date's mom and dad. The Bible don't say much about sugar, but it has a lot in the New Testament to say about salt. And Jesus said his church should be salt. We're the salt of the earth. And what did he mean by that? Well, I've thought of this thought lately. If you just have 1 grain of salt, it doesn't make much difference. But you keep salt in a shaker. You apply quite a bit of it at a time. And it's salt that keeps things from rotting. Salt is a preservative. And the Church of Jesus Christ should be keeping this society that we live in from going rotten. But we've got far too many professing Christians today that they don't want to assemble together with the other salt. They just want to be 1 grain of salt out by themselves. And there's a problem with that. There's a reason that it's hard to get people saved anymore. It's because almost everybody professes that they're okay. But sad fact is Jesus intends for you to be part of the organized church. And if you're not, then you really need to think about that and pray about that, because this rotten society around us, it needs the church. And the church needs to be swelling at the doors, and that'll make a difference in this society. Stop trying to do the end around God and change things through politics and everything else. But if the church just gets right and the church becomes a predominant factor in our society once again, then you'll see a difference in our nation. Make America Christian again and do your part. See you next week. We'll find another weekly word adventure.